The Mission Impossible franchise, at least for the time being, is now officially over. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning might have been a bumpy ride with some stumbles and a few uneven creative choices, but despite the struggle, I walked away genuinely enjoying the film as a finale to a saga of films that we have been experiencing for almost 30 years now. Can you believe that? May of next year marks 30 years of Mission Impossible. What a wild ride it has truly been. I'm going to dive into why this final installment felt like a challenge to fully embrace, and yet how it still managed to deliver the high-stakes thrills and character moments that make this franchise so iconic. I'll explore those struggles I have with the film while making a defense of it, comment on the stunts and action that are maybe some of the best in the franchise, explore the villains and the film's epic conflict, and finally, we will talk about Tom Cruise and the future of the franchise. To everyone watching, what was your favorite moment from The Final Reckoning? Let me know in the comments as we run through the video. So like I just said, my struggle with the film is actually one where I can make a good defense of it at the same time. Where people have their issues with this movie, I also have my issues and agree with them, but I also defend this movie in a way where I do believe that there are people out there who are making it seem like this is the worst movie ever made. I've listened to several people online on the movie, and it comes off as being a bit too harsh. The thing that you are hearing most people be upset about, and rightfully I can understand why, is that the first hour or so of the movie is nothing but exposition and a lore dump of the entire franchise and its films. For that hour or so, from the start, I admit I understand what people were saying. It came off like they were celebrating the franchise, which I appreciate, but I was also getting a bit worried about what they were doing with the execution of it all. It basically threw off a lot of the pacing within the film and kind of added a little too much to the very long runtime that it is. I understand that the movie is trying to get you to understand what the conflict is about to be, but I think the film may have tried too hard in making sure that you understand a lot of what came before so that you knew that that's how the conflict was supposed to be established. I also think it might have been a slight waste of the talents of the actors who exposit all that dialogue, like Holt McElhaney, Nick Offerman, Charles Parnell, Janet McTeer, and even Angela Bassett, who has been with us for the last 3 films and now plays the President of the United States. While I don't think that entirely is a problem, I do think that they just go on for a very long time explaining it all. You know how you have those essays that people write in school where they add more dialogue than they need to because they have to fill out enough of a paragraph to fill up the entire page? That's what the first act feels like on paper. How can we divulge enough information as possible to make sure that everybody understands what the conflict is meant to be going forward? It felt like in past movies, it was organically woven in because elements of the plot were happening every other 10 to 15 minutes in action. The amount of dialogue is the problem. It's not what they actually said. Because where I now give my defense of the movie is that I don't think the story is ridiculous like a lot of people are saying it is. Yes, there are some moments where they do go overboard, but the concept is not something I was completely annoyed by or disliked. So that's where I give my defense, even if I did have that similar struggle like other people did. One of my other issues is that I felt like at points they were trying too hard to be serious, and a lot of the charm that the last several movies gave us was missing. Granted, the stakes of The Final Reckoning don't really necessitate that, but you can take your plot seriously while also adding in what made those other films appealing tonally. I look at this in a way where I split the franchise into different pieces. The original 3 films represent one piece as the classic cheesy spy thriller series. Yes, they take themselves seriously at times, but a lot of it, for the most part, is heavy on the cheese, especially that second movie. Then you have the next 3 films, from Ghost Protocol to Fallout. These 3 films had a great charm to them in terms of knowing when to take the right moments serious, but then also when to add in some levity that made it enjoyable to watch. And then you have the final 2 movies with Dead Reckoning and The Final Reckoning, which take themselves way more seriously than the rest of the franchise all around. I would only assume that that is probably the reason why most people who have seen these movies love that section of 3 from Ghost Protocol to Fallout the most. Those 3 films just did everything right and balanced the tone perfectly, and they kept the franchise afloat going into the final couple that we have gotten recently. These are just the areas of The Final Reckoning that I just do feel like there was a bit of a struggle, even if I was very entertained after the first half was over. And speaking of that second half, this is where things make a turn for the best. A pure cinematic experience that rivals so many great action films out there. I was fully locked in after that first hour, experiencing some of the best the franchise has offered, from the action, the music, the tension, and how they filmed everything. It's a pure masterclass in many of those filmmaking elements. I felt genuine emotion and thought that I was about to cry at many moments. They really did right to make this feel like it was the last one based on those aspects alone. The submarine sequence might be one of the best things this franchise has ever done. I, honest to God, fully believe that nothing in film for the rest of time could ever possibly replicate what they could have done if they actually replicated this in real life. Obviously, that would not physically be possible, but I'm just saying, imagine what would happen if they had gone down to the bottom of the ocean to do this. Only Tom Cruise would be up to the challenge for that, and I feel like he did a great job at least showcasing what it could look like. Being inside of that submarine as it's rolling down that crust in the ocean floor was so thrilling, and I could not take my eyes off of it. Pure claustrophobia in the worst ways possible, and even though aspects of the sequence are definitely ridiculous in that you would never be able to do that and survive it like Ethan did, I was entertained, and that's all I can ask for in these kinds of movies. And then of course, we have the franchise's magnum opus of stunts, the glide plane sequence. I don't care what anybody says, but this is the best stunt the series has done yet. Had it not been done for real, I'd be saying otherwise, but it is all real. They really did do this. Tom Cruise really jumped from one glide plane to another and held onto them while flying. Had this stunt not been done for real, I'd be saying otherwise, but it is all real. They really did do this. Tom Cruise really jumped from one plane to another and held onto them while they were flying. The behind the scenes does show he had some type of harness on to prevent him from falling, but even still, that is some of the craziest, most insane shit I would ever see a human being trying to tackle. Now, I have seen a couple of people dismiss what they do with Gabriel's death in this stunt, and I admit, I understand what they are saying, because it certainly did feel like it came off wrong tonally, as if I wasn't supposed to laugh at it with what they do to him, but what's done is done now, and that's the direction they took in killing him off. Regardless of all of that, the sequence was epic, and most of the other action in the movie that is not the glide plane sequence and the submarine sequence was also pretty decent. I've been saying it for years, but good to great action for the majority of the time is when it's all filmed in camera and not destroyed by bad editing. I don't think this film had any of that for the most part, and I'm thankful because had the action and stunts let me down, this would easily be one of my least favorite in the franchise. When it comes to reaching the highest possible point in the series of films, I don't think there is any other direction that you could possibly go to end a saga than with your final villains and conflicts being about AI and nuclear Armageddon. The final reckoning sets it up immediately at the beginning that the AI known as the Entity is quickly gaining control of every major governmental system in the world to the point where it will control every one of their nuclear arsenals. If Ethan Hunt and his team don't find a way to stop it, then it will launch those nukes and destroy the entire planet. The catch with all of that is that even if Ethan and all of them find a way to stop it, they have to make sure it doesn't completely destroy the entirety of the world's electrical systems for good, basically causing a worldwide EMP that would send them back to the Stone Age. I don't think you could pick a better way to end it all than with these elements of a conflict. At this point, if the Mission Impossible franchise were to continue into the future, how much bigger could they go than this that would make sense and not go too ridiculous? They haven't gone to space yet, but would that be too much? I remember when Fast and the Furious did that, and it was something people were predicting years in advance, but yet when Fast and Furious actually did it in Fast 9, everyone was like, yeah, that's it for me. I think I'm done with these movies. Even I, the first time I saw Dead Reckoning, was a little taken aback by the AI plotline to the point where I was thinking that this was too much at the time years ago. And here now, I'm actually not too dissatisfied with it because I think the interesting thing about how they utilize it in this movie is that they treat the Entity like it's a horror movie. It's an added aspect to the tension because you truly don't know what's going to happen. This idea that the Entity wants you to think a certain way because it might expect you to do something else is a great way to throw off your expectations of what's coming. The nuclear Armageddon part of it all is something that we've seen in countless movies. I mean, the franchise has already done a nuclear conflict, so it's not like this was completely original. Esai Morales as the Entity's pawn, I still think probably could have been done a little bit better. I think he plays the character very well. I just think that when you also tie someone like that to the past of a character like Ethan Hunt, you are expected to think that there's something more to that, but we never got it. The villain was introduced pretty late on with the last two films, so I guess Mantis. In that case, he really didn't have much to work with other than having a good actor to play him. And we have now reached the final conversation to have about this movie and the future of the Mission Impossible franchise. I think the best way to start this off is actually talking about the cast in Final Reckoning, because I'm about to throw an angle at you all that might make you think a lot more than you had thought previously about what the future could hold. The cast ensemble in the Final Reckoning is stacked, and it's also filled with a couple of names that I think could add to a great future no matter what direction the franchise goes in. This would require the franchise to soft reboot in a way where a lot of the characters that we know now would have to take a back seat, and we would be given newer characters as the team that we follow moving forward. Pom Klementieff as Paris would be the first one. I've loved Pom since she was in the MCU as the character Mantis, and here now in another franchise, I love her even more, especially as this character, where she just seems like she's having a lot of fun with the role, and she is seemingly now a good guy, so there is an avenue where she could be slotted into the major team that we follow. Tremel Tillman, aka Milchick from Severance, has a great role in Final Reckoning, one that went on a lot longer than I thought it would, and he plays this kind of character that I think is one that could pop up back again in future films. He may be the captain of a submarine in the Final Reckoning, but I think you could see him get a promotion to another role in the military where he is used more often for the IMF team. Greg Tarzan as Davis pretty much is already on the team, but given the Final Reckoning was his first time being with that team, again, I think you could see him continue to work inside of it. Katie O'Brien is someone in the world of film that has been getting a lot of recognition recently in the last however many years, and she also plays a pretty cool role within this movie where, again, depending on what they do, they could slot her into that new team. She's got the chops as an actress, and also her character seems very cool for her military background to accept the choice of joining the IMF. Now, let's talk about Grace and Benji, and even Luther too. I thought Luther's death was handled very well, and I got choked up watching his final scene with Ethan. Ving Rhames has been there since day one, and he is one of the best things this franchise has done character-wise. He will be missed. When it comes to the character of Grace, again, she is another new character who got added into the team within the last movie. But whether she returns in the future, I think would ultimately probably be up to Hayley Atwell. I think she's been great in the final two films, and I would love for her to continue, but I wonder if Hayley thinks that she would like to continue, which is the ultimate question. Simon Pegg as Benji, at least for right now, seems like his story is over. With the ending of the movie leaving it a bit open for interpretation, I would assume that he is done for the time being. This dude has been a part of the franchise nearly since the beginning, and so I feel like he and Tom Cruise might just want to take a break for now, and the door is open for them to want to return in the future if they please. Now that I've mentioned him enough already, let's actually talk about Tom. I think this is the end of the line for him as Ethan Hunt, at least as the lead character. I don't personally expect that he'll want to keep doing this, especially in his older age at 62 years old. I've read some interviews in the last few years where he has subtly hinted at the idea that he wants to take a break from doing action movies and he wants to go back to a more dramatic actor role in his career. For right now, I think that's the best move, not just for him, but I think for the story of Mission Impossible. I don't know what else this character can possibly do that hasn't been done already. All we can really do right now is just salute the man for doing so much incredible stuff with almost 30 years of films that probably no other actor out there would have touched because they're not as crazy as he is. If this is the end for Ethan Hunt and Tom Cruise, then I think he went out in a decent way. Again, the ending feels left open for interpretation. I think there is a chance his character could return in the future in a much smaller role, but he's not going to be the lead anymore. If it is a soft reboot, he can play more of a role where the new main team goes to him for advice or something along those lines. It leaves the door open as well for Cruise to stay on as a producer for future films. But again, I don't personally think we are going to see the character of Ethan Hunt leading a Mission Impossible movie anytime soon for at least the next 5 to 10 years. We salute to you, Tom. Thank you for doing all that you have done with Mission Impossible. And there you have it. That is my commentary and analysis of The Final Reckoning. What do you all think of my analysis of it? This was not meant to be some ultra breakdown of the movie, but only how I felt about certain things inside of it. Leave your comments down below, and please be respectful if you disagree with anything I said in my analysis. Thank you all for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you are new here and turn on that notification bell. I'm trying to build a community on here, and your support would be appreciated. That's a wrap, folks. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for the next video.